And that's going to inform the kinds of choices we make. And we have to take responsibility for our choices. Okay, so our life in a way is really a reflection of the kinds of choices and the responsibilities that we make. So they're going to be sharing with you, based on their own personal experiences, and giving some thoughts on how we can face challenges and what ways in which we can respond to challenges in ways that are positive. How to overcome failure, so that failure actually is not seen as a stumbling block, but we can use it to advance ourselves forward. How to train our minds for success. And those of you who read a lot into psychology, there is a lot of evidence, research evidence and data suggests that there is a success mindset, that a large percentage of successful individuals, the journey starts with really envisioning their success. So the ability to have a vision of where they would like to be, given their current reality, and then taking the steps, doing all that's necessary to bring them in line with that vision. So having that mind for success, being able to envision a future where you can define the success, whatever it is for you, is proven to be a very, very, very important skill or competency for individuals. And we're going to hear some experiences about how we can train our minds to do exactly that. How do you know when it's time to switch careers? That may interest some persons here. I remember in my younger days, I had reached a point where I was sort of like in limbo. Should I stay? Should I go somewhere else? And if you're mindful, that is tuned into yourself, you get the signs. You know when it's not quite right. Different people feel it in different ways, but you do get the stirrings, you do get the insights that maybe there's something else I can do that gives me greater passion in the morning, that I'm going through the motions, and there's something else that lights my fire, and maybe I need to have the courage to step out and make a change. So how do you know when it's right to switch careers? And Navin said that in economic downturns, he said there are three industries, or three areas that seem to boom. One was the alcohol, so if you're in the alcohol business, that's good. The other one was education, which is the business we're about. Okay? And certainly if you're thinking of switching careers, certainly education might play a role there in helping to position you, acquiring the new skills that you would need to launch your career in a different direction, even if it's starting one's own business. And then how do you position yourself for greatness? Now, that's a broad concept, because greatness will be different for everyone. But it's really about how do you be the best that you can be. Okay? And that would be for a successful life. Just being your best possible self every day, every year, so that we live our lives with few regrets, and we can look back if we were to do introspection and see where we are and where our growth and our journey has been. And when we seek to tell the stories to our children and grandchildren, we have a wonderful story and stories to tell. And lastly, how to adapt to change versus neglect change. As I said, change is a constant, so you can't get around it. The world is always changing. In fact, you're changing from the time you're born. Right? So change is always there. We live in an environment of change. We sometimes choose to ignore it and pretend that it's not happening. but it is happening. And it goes at various rates, different rates, and it's how do you position yourself, how do you keep up with change? So do you adapt, do you neglect the change, or just go with the flow, which is not changing at all? So we get some perspectives on that particular issue, adapt to change or neglect change. So I hope I've given you a little kind of taste of what the evening is going to be like in terms of the presentations. We envisage an interactive session, so I hope you would participate in that way in the forum and be very engaged in the presentations that you will hear from members of the panel. So having said that, as I say on the plane, sit back, relax, and enjoy your time here with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. And you'll be hearing more from it. What we're going to do, we're going to have first, as we mentioned, our 3 distinguished alumni making their presentation. I wouldn't want to call you all speakers today, I want to call you distinguished alumni today, making their presentations, and then we'll be back up in a moderated discussion where we have the audience interaction, we have a lively discussion. I asked a question earlier on about how many of you all have been here. I figured it would be a good bit, yes, and it was true. Because many of you all are alumni. For those of you that are alumni, if you could show me by way of hands, how many of you interacted with a fellow alumni from the Lok Jack School of Business in the last year? Yes, so it's almost the same amount of people that have been here before. And that really speaks to how being part of a network, alumni network of a school that also continues to have that engagement, and later on I'll talk about some of the different ways we engage with the alumni and so on. But it's very important, and I wanted to read a short paragraph on an excerpt from an article that was put out in the Harvard Business Review magazine, speaking to the power of alumni networks. And so what they say is the power of social networks, human ones, not just the online platform, so the human ones, to disseminate valuable information is an example. They say alumni networks turn out to be an especially effective kind of social network. And this is in part because people often self-select into undergraduate and graduate programs that have social groups with interests that closely align to their own. So the fact that you did come and do a program, you could have a lot of people who in that program that may be slightly like-minded like yourself. And so by having that bond where you're closely aligned with your interests with ones of your colleagues, what they say, it generates both a higher level of interaction with your alumni colleagues, and it also fosters longer-lived relationships. So again, I'm kind of refreshing, we all know this, but I wanted to refresh the concept of the power of this network and the alumni network. And again, for you all to come to this Distinguished Alumni Series, right there your mindset is there, and right even in this room, we probably self-selected with people of similar interest as well. Now we will have some divergence and sometimes that's very healthy. But the key is that you get to see and interact with people that are like-minded, and you have all your colleagues from your past programs that you can tap into and talk to, and at the end of the day, you all went through a similar experience together. I know but it might have been a very grueling and tough experience as well, right? A challenging experience. And so you know what you've gone through and you succeeded. And again, it is something not to just, consider lightly, because you all have done very well all together. So with that, you already have the bio in your program. for our first speaker, and I'll move on to him, which is Mr. Kieron McDougall, who, incidentally, I don't know if how many of you are aware of some of the different things the school is doing, but we have our master's programs and so on. And we also have a different program. I'll tell you a little bit more, not too much more, but there's more information out there about our post-MBA program. Anybody's heard of that before? Well, I'll explain a little bit more. All I'll say for now, it is not your typical educational program. But anyhow, Kieron McDougall is a graduate of the post-MBA program as well. In addition to that, I mean, he has had an outstanding and long-standing career as a public officer over 18 years in both middle and senior management in the government of Trinidad and Tobago before becoming an executive consultant. And he was in charge of the Protocol and International Relations Unit in the office of the Chief Secretary of Tobago House of Assembly. What happened? But in addition to that, the TT Connect Express service, he had a role to play in that. And again, in the bio, you will notice his significant, lengthy academic credentials, which include the post-MBA, but also an executive master's, Master of Business Administration here from the Lok Jack School. He also did a postgraduate certificate in Business Administration in area at Watt University. And a bachelor's degree in business from the University of Sutherland, and a few other ones, like the National Advanced Diploma in Administrative Management from the Institute of Management in the UK. Obviously, Kieron is a person that values lifelong learning. And that is a concept that, really, the more of us that embrace that. What's the last thing we had? What's that for me? It's like that. So without further ado, Kieron,
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for that wonderful introduction. Fellow alumni, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. First of all, please allow me to express my sincerest appreciation to the board, management, faculty, and support staff at the Lok Jack Graduate School of Business for this opportunity to share a few thoughts with you on the theme, New Year, New Perspective, Positioning Yourself for Greatness. I am truly humbled and honored to be given this opportunity to speak with you and to also share this platform with my fellow presenters, Rani and Jerry. Kevin Theo once asserts that aspiring for greatness in life is something most of us will have, but achieving that greatness is something not all of us will endure. The reality is there is no shortcut to success. Every individual who has achieved greatness in life will attest to this. My success to date is an appreciated bonus of the hard work, dedication, commitment. Sometimes we may belittle ourselves and think that we are not someone who will go further in life. Charles Springers reminds us that life is 10% of what happens to us and 90% of how we have to live. Every aspect of your life continues to change, and despite these challenges, you must remind yourselves that all will be well. Please allow me to highlight some suggestions on how to face and overcome these challenges. You must be able to assert your goals. When you think there is no hope about life, everything seems to have fallen apart, you must accept that you still have options, and therefore determine what you want for yourself. Focus on the things that goes right. Do not dwell on the things you do not have, but rather focus on what is working right for you. Remember, life is full of challenges, and there are few things that are impossible, but at the end of the day, you have a choice, and therefore you must not live in fear. Embrace fear, experience new challenges, and do things you have never done before. You can ignore fear, but can't escape. Take action and be proactive. Don't procrastinate and wait on the clock. You must work effectively with the time and always be ahead. Do better than the day before. Do something that will make today better than yesterday. Can you do something about it now? Yes, you can. You must do it now. Create a balance in your life. Take time out to do things yourself. More so your hobbies. Spend time with your loved ones and take a vacation whenever it becomes necessary. This will help to develop your mind, body, and soul. Accept and release. You must accept your life as it is now. It does not matter what kind of challenges you are facing. You must see them as opportunities for growth. You must release and let go of your past and forgive yourselves and others. You must not ponder that the situation you are in now resulted from the mistakes you have made in the past. This is not important. All that matters is what you do at this moment. Practice gratitude. Look back at your day and highlight the things that made it brighter. Dealing with your problems certainly will bring you out of your comfort zone, but handling them in the correct manner means that you are growing as a person. You must learn to be grateful for the challenges in your life because they make you stronger. Never give up. Understand that the road to success incorporates some element of failure. Even if you stumble, you must reassure yourself that all will be okay. As you continue to learn, I can remember that you already have all that is needed. You must live in the present and view yourself and others just as the way how people view you positively. You must stop living in denial. Do not neglect change. Embrace it. Sometimes you may sabotage your own success because deep down inside of you it is believed that you deserve only a certain level of success, and some greatness is something you deserve. Furthermore, if you were to successfully achieve greatness, you fear that you can't handle it. That is why you shy away from achieving greatness, even though you aren't consciously aware of it. What can you do to stop this? Consider your mind now for greatness in life. Start visualizing that you can indeed achieve greatness in life and that you will be able to handle greatness. You must not neglect change, you must embrace it. You must also learn to accept that change will happen. Take a moment to really think about change. It is happening all around you all the time. Sometimes the change can feel like a setback, but it's an exciting leap forward. You need to become aware of how change makes you feel. Is it fear, excitement, or comfort that you feel? Being aware of these feelings will help with the initial barrier that change can sometimes bring. Challenge yourself. Make an effort to try new things on a regular basis, both in your creative business and also your personal life. While the daily routines and schedules can help you on track to reach your goals, flexibility will help you move effortlessly around any barriers that arise and adapt to new ways of thinking. Go try something that you have never done before. An experiment, a new art form, maybe try cooking something new or walk a different routine. Just mix it up. Seek new perspectives. One of the hardest aspects of change can be to see it the way others do. Take a moment to view any changes from others' point of view. This is a great way of putting it into perspective, which can bring live positives you may not have seen before. Seek support and build new relationships. Talk it out with others. Sometimes just talking about it will turn huge barriers into small obstacles. David Matthew articulates that being associated with and committed to others give people a feeling that are equal to their problems. Find the positives. Finding the silver lining can sometimes be hard. You're working so hard to run your business that changes can feel like a burden. Remember that there's always a positive side to change. It is usually for the better. Changing the mindset is sometimes all it takes to help things work. Understand that change takes time. Nothing is immediate. If you need to implement a new IT system in your business, learn a new social media application, or understand changes in your personal life, these all take time. Be patient with yourself and understand that the process that time takes to adapt, you need to take it one step at a time. Live in the moment. Enjoy change. Seek to live your days in the moment. The past is done and the future will always be there ahead of you. So stay true to the now. Embrace every new thing as it comes your way. Feeling anxious about the future will only hold you back. Remove old ways of thinking. Clear out trash. Clean up your email messages. Throw out the old notes and give yourself the opportunity to move forward. Anything that is no longer relevant to your business or growth is a cluster that will fill your mind and your workspace with irrelevant information. Take the plunge and invest in change as a way of taking your creative business to new heights rather than locked or holding you back. In closing, change is constant. Keep yourself relevant, up to date, and retrained. You must acknowledge the differences in people and processes and respect this, but find ways to work around them when it becomes an obstacle. Thoroughly examine your industry trends and global marketplace. Try new things on a small scale occasionally for personal practice, then increase the risk level in the things you try. Change is the reality, and you must face those realities even as you are now in a new year, embracing new perspective and positioning yourself for greatness. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kieron. You know, Kieron said so many things in such a short time that I hope some of you all were taking notes. I did take a couple. And some of the things he said, you actually could start doing immediately. Right? Little things are, okay, you want your focus on the positives, again, it's about training your mind as Winnet mentioned, but the change aspect is something that's always there, and you have to be cognizant. But I like what he said, accept and embrace it. Right? You talk about visualization. There's a whole world of stuff under that whole visualization umbrella, and many people have used it to their success. But one thing also, we said really quickly, is build new relationships. But today, I want you to have to try it. Right? After this, we're going to have a little bit of a time to mix and mingle and so on. Take the opportunity to put that one to test and build maybe one or two or more new relationships. You never know where it will go. So with that, thank you very much, Kieron. I'll move along again to the next speaker, which is Mr. Jeremy Francis, the Managing Director for Beyond Consulting. We're going to talk about transcending fear. So, quite excited to hear about that. He's been building out the capacity in terms of assessment centers and psychometrics in the Caribbean, and has also gone as far as in Europe and participated in different events over there as well. Jeremy currently holds a BSc in psychology with sociology and a postgraduate diploma in human resource management from the University of West Indies. He's trained in psychometric test administration and feedback level A and B, British Psychological Society.
I think we could know a friend of mine posted on Facebook and then she had. She wasn't get feedback from the parents. Some of us were encouraged. Some was skeptical. But overall, everyone gave her good feedback. I sent her PM asking her how serious was she about this idea. It was something that I was also interested in as well. She said 4 out of 10. So I was confused. I said, well, why not 8 or 9? She said it's something she wanted to do. However, she knew she did not have the resources or the time. And this is what I told her. We should never, women decide for your dreams by current circumstances. Sometimes there's something in our heart, in our mind, that we have to do. But when it comes to where we are at, and when we are, we put barriers in front of it. That, my friend, is faith. When I was in secondary school, I wanted to go out and do a degree. However, I knew that my parents would not have the funds to send me. I also didn't think I was smart enough to get a scholarship. So what did I do? I taught myself out of it. I did nothing. I applied for no scholarships. I never asked my parents. Nothing. My fear of doing something new prevented me from exploring what could have happened. I limited my own potential with my own insecurity. Fear limits our upside. Fear says it will not work. Fear says you are not good enough. Fear says you will fail. I can tell you that fear is a lie. I started my business in 2009. If I think about that, was the worst time to start business. It was the height of the movement of the people had just passed. We can't fall the half on to go to the end. My wife and I had just bought our first home. She was also pregnant from a third son. This is the time I took to leave my job. And so when I had my hand, I was looking at my kid. Everyone I told about it weren't supportive. However, you look in my eyes, told me something different. You are a man. No one said it, but I felt it. I had to do it. It was my time. Only you can know that time. So, I remember to get some myself and started my journey. Because of that decision, I have done things that I never protected now. I have been to places that I never thought I would see. And I am here now talking to you. Once I confronted by fear, I realized that my potential was limitless. It is important that we know that fear solves our success and prevents us from achieving wonderful and great things. How do we get around our kids? How do we move on and build something wonderful? First thing, know whom we can trust. Not everyone is a friend. Not every friend is a willing. If you have an idea, something you want to do, talk to someone that you saw that person will keep you confident and give you the advice. Very important. Second thing, plan. While I was still working here, I was planning for my departure. I spent 6 months every day doing something towards starting my own business. My own business. All the research, all the planning happened before I left. So when I did eventually go out, I knew exactly what I had to do and when. Third thing, pick a date. Say that by the 5th of June, I will start. That puts things in motion in your mind and in your environment. Don't leave it open-ended. Give yourself a specific time frame to realize your dream success. Fourth, know what you are not good at. People tend to focus on the things that they are wonderful at. No. Do some introspection. Figure out the things to struggle at, things that are difficult, and get better at them. Find people who can do. Seek out new ways of learning. If there are something, fine. Focus on those areas that you have confidence with. And the last one, just do it. Simple. The fear will always be there until you say, you know what? I'm going ahead and go. Because the alternative is to live your life miserable and to harass the penalty simple. You might have a wonderful job, and myself and myself, but you know that you are unhappy. You know you are not doing what you are prepared to do. And that affects all of the relationships. We have to understand that our potential has to be realized. Must. And the last thing, when it comes to your dreams, hold them and move them.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. Now, if you're taking notes, this again, you get a lot of nice good tips and realize what are achievable things. I like that one. Never limit the size of your dream by a physical circumstance. Dream big or dream come home. You know, I mean, that's very good. And just a simple thing. Plan, pick a date. You know, sometimes we don't think of these things. You can call it common sense, but sometimes we need to refresh. We have to hear from somebody to refresh our memory. this is something that we should do. So thank you very much for that. So moving along, because we have a few more things in the moderated session, we have our next distinguished alumni, Ms. Rani Lakhan-Narace. And just before I talk a little bit more about you, I'll just say one thing. She is also, in terms of her academic credentials, as an executive MBA program alumni from the school, as well as the post-MBA program as well. I told you all that post-MBA thing is not a typical type of program. What is or why are some of you folks and why have other people decided to do this program after you already have a master's? And this is the thing, the entire program is designed in a way. It is designed for, it's a professional executive program that is designed for lifelong learners who have already earned their graduate degrees, but they remain intellectually and academically curious. Remember, this is the whole part of lifelong learning. There's always ways you can improve yourself. And some of our distinguished alumni have already done that. And it's an 8-month professional program, and you can find out some of the specifics, how it runs and so on, and leave outside if afterwards you really you can go check on it and so on as well. But again, we have some of our alumni from that program here as well. Back to Mrs. Narace. She has experience both in the retail and financial services sector, and she's currently the executive chairman of Treasury, which is an independent insurance company. And if you know anything about insurance, to have an independent company that is also a fast-growing and taking up market share in a world of big units, this is not a simple and easy task. And so she's led a transformation at that company and their continued expansion. As I mentioned, she got the EMBA and post-MBA from Lok Jack, as well as she has a bachelor's degree from Western Ontario as well. She's also president of the Association of the Trinidad and Tobago Insurance Companies and a member of the board of the Insurance Association of the Caribbean. She has other involvements. She's an associate at Shift Caribbean, an NGO that envisions just and lasting change through transformational programs for sustainable social impact. Okay, we take it from this. Thank you very much. And she had an early fascination, as you will see in the bio, with self-actualization and the continuous pursuit of academic and transformational and spiritual endeavors. So with that, we'd like to invite Rani on the stage.
Thank you very much. Before I get started, I'd like to just, we've been sitting all day. Let's release some of that tension. So I'm going to ask you to stand. Very simply, I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath. The greatness is about pure potentiality. It's not about performing a great feat. It's about your pure potentiality, because it's from that everything flows. So I'm now going to make a declaration. And after I make that declaration, I invite you to do the same. To say the same words and make your own declaration. And when you do that, I'd like you to be aware and be present to where are you feeling that in your body. And what's the first thing that occurs to you? Is it a thought or a feeling? And I'd like you to take a moment afterwards and just write that down. You'll see I have a worksheet in your package. So use the blank side to write those observations down for later reflection. So I'm going to make my declaration, and then I'm going to come to the screen and ask you to do the same. So here I go. I'm ready for greatness. 1, 2, 3.
I'm ready for greatness.
Let me feel that in your body. Did I feel it when you said that? So for me, when I say that, I feel it in my heart. And I feel a sense of freedom when I say it with vigor and passion. Have you been ready before? I have. Like, were you ready like last year, January, for New Year's? You were ready for greatness then? Or was it for your last Wednesday? Yes, so as I was saying, I have a feeling that you've been ready before. Last birthday or the last time you attended a motivational session and you were ready. So what happened? Why are we here today? Well, Albert Einstein said, everything is energy, and that's all there is. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. This is not philosophy, he says. This is physics. So today I am proposing that it's our deep-seated beliefs and thoughts, the recurring thoughts we have about ourselves, that generate a vibrational frequency that get in the way of our greatness. And I'd like to quickly demonstrate. Can I have some volunteers? About 7. I know the time. It's nothing hard. Won't hurt. You just stand. Yes. I'm having So, Kavita, can you be greatness?
Yes.
Pure potentiality.
Pure potential.
And who would like to be me? Keisha. This is you right now. And here you are. It's the 1st of January. What today is your last meeting. There is your greatness. You are facing your greatness. You see it so clearly. You can taste it, you can touch it. Can't you? It's so clear. And then what happens? No. Down comes and kind of wants to hold on to you so tightly. Facing you. And down is the best friend of fear. Yes. Here you are. This is fair.
I'm here.
Yes. And what are some of the other beliefs that we have? That life is unfair. Life is unfair. And then treasure. Lady, greatness, you're supposed to be the supportive wife and mother and daughter. What you doing there? Another possibility. Money is the root of all evil. Right? So, Keisha, can you still see your greatness? What happened? No? See it? It's gone. You don't even know it existed anymore. And this happens on maybe 2nd, 3rd of January. Within a few days, right? You've lost sight. You can't remember that you were able to see it so clearly, that you were able to touch it. Thank you very much. So what can we do? How can we shift that? Well, first of all, what's a belief? A belief is a thought that you keep thinking and that you hold true. And these beliefs have been programmed into us since we were born, 2 and 3 year olds. Programmed into us without our permission. programmed into us by society and by the people who love us, who had our best interests at heart. But it was a reflection of their lives and passed on to them from generations before. So these beliefs have come to us, and we have trained our brain to continue to think these thoughts, creating neural pathways that become deeper with time. So we have trained our brain to think like that. Fortunately, with the advent of all the research in neuroplasticity, we know that the brain is very elastic, and that we can change and build new neural pathways by changing our thoughts. Can we really easy, according to Einstein, match the frequency to the reality you want? How do we do that? So, I invite you now. Let's see how we can change that. I invite you to close your eyes. Look at that feeling. Shed it. Take a deep breath, clear it. And now close your eyes. And think of someone or something that you're so grateful for. So grateful for. Where do you feel it in your body? How does it make you feel? Is it different? Open your eyes. Is it different? Is it expansive? Is it expanding? Doesn't it cause you to expand rather than restrict? Yes. So this is how I'm proposing that you can change your vibrational frequency to match the reality that you want in greatness. Quick tips of how to do that. Meditation, you heard about mindfulness. Go into nature. Nature has a higher vibration. There's no judgment there. There's no competition, no fear. What do you look at? What do you read? Who are your friends? I remember Deepak Chopra said, your happiness quotient increases when you have happy friends. And when your happy friends have happy friends, your happiness quotient also goes up. So I imagine the reverse is true. I also would like you, in order to change your vibrational frequency and understand your belief systems, to take a journey within. There's a whole new world behind closed eyes. We heard about what we have to do to embrace change. We have to scan the environment. We want to engage the team. We want to analyze the competitor. Know the thinking of the customer. Because we have to do strategic planning, so we have to do critical thinking. And we have to always be on the board and knowing what's going on out there. What about what's going on in here? Greatness comes from here. So I invite all of you to take a journey. And I'm going to close with the words of Rumi. You are not a drop in the ocean. You're a mighty ocean in a drop. Safe travels to the journey yourself. Thank you.
Well, listen, after that, I'm just so very excited to hear the discussion didn't continue. So with that, maybe you could just take a seat up there and with the other distinguished alumni, if you're open, let's not have any video until straight on carry on that discussion with that. Anxiously awaited the airport.
We are now open for comments, your questions, the engagement part of the presentation. So I think we have a person with mics. So just raise your hand and they'll come to you and you can ask your question. There are options. You can direct your question to a member of the panel, or it can be an open question in which we invite anyone to respond. So I see there, someone there raised his hand.
The question I have to ask is it possible that the thing that made you successful in the past could hinder your success in the future? Is that possible? How do you deal with that?
I think we have to mind so that we are not constant and things are moving. So when I was in 2009, it's not where I am in 2017. What I was good at then is not what I was now. So you have to think about things. Nothing stays constant and you have to keep building more capacity.
Thank you very much. Any other members wish to respond?
Basically, what happens in the past is what appears in the future. And as change, we constantly face change. I mean, there will always be a paradigm shift in terms of how we see the past and how we hear yourself as a person. And therefore, as Jeremy said, and rightly so, that, when or the situation or the position was in back then, 2009, we are now in 2017. Of course, when you look at it, sometimes that shift and that change, could be done well. I remember some time ago, I was talking with a group of persons, and I told them that, notwithstanding that I had completed part of my education in 2004, and I was telling them back then in 2010 that what I did there was not relevant anymore. And as a result of that, and because of the constant change, you always have to put yourself and stay calm. So therefore, I don't think that whatever has happened to you in the past could result in failure in the future. What basically happens is that it prepares you to allow yourself to learn from those experiences, even if there might be challenges. And I think that would be a solid foundation for you to always persevere and realize your success.
If I understand your question correctly, it's something that you're good at and prevent you from being good at something. So I'm very analytical, but I do find in certain areas my analytical thinking isn't always the best solution. So from that perspective, if it is that you're good at something, that you have to consider whether it's always useful, because it almost comes like an overworked muscle. And a lot of times, and it's what I call a strong suit. You may have a strong suit, but then you can't let it go because it becomes so much part of you. So in that context, I would say that sometimes that's something that you're good at can get in the way of seeing other perspectives because you're only seeing one way.
And on that note, I want a question I would like to direct to Jeremy. Your presentation, you spoke about the importance of knowing what you're not good at. And that struck me because most of the times we're told to hone your skills and focus on your strengths as you were just talking about. So you want to talk a little bit more about that? Why is it important to know what we're not good at?
The thing is, the things you are good at, and it's because it's another time on them. The things that we are not good at and the things we stay away from, the things that we prefer not to do, and sometimes those are things that keep us back. It takes some willingness to look at yourself. So own up to the fact that you are not the best thing in the world. And I am not great at everything. And I cannot solve all the problems. It takes a great person to step back from that and realize that there are things that I can help with, there are things that I do not know, and that there are other people who want to add to that, better than I am. And you need to be able to ask for help when it's required. You need to be able to go and do our own research and do that on ourselves. And spend more time cultivating that humility to address things that we are not invested in.
So I think it's part really of one's own self-awareness, having a correct reality on who you are and what your skills are. But how do we do this? Is really genuine as we can. What are some of the steps or the mechanisms that one can use to have that sort of inspection?
Well, definitely, one has to acknowledge that there are weaknesses. Once they are able to identify those shortcomings, this is where the drive has to come in order for you to overcome those shortcomings. It's like, it's like mathematics. You can look at mathematics as a really challenging subject area, everything to do with figures. Some persons have that perspective. And I think it's one of the fundamental reasons why the classroom is so, it's really huge in terms of persons having difficulty and challenges. Looking at it, that acknowledging the problem and finding a solution. And as Jeremy rightly said, we continue to do the things that we are good at, but we continue to neglect what we are not good at. But once we are able to acknowledge that there's a shortcoming, I think we just need to change the status quo and put the energy and the resources and the effort in those areas so that we can strive with that. I just want to sort of use some experience. And this would have been a number of years ago. At age 14, I wrote the CNC exams. I was privileged to do 9 CNC levels. And I was pretty okay in some of these subjects, some of them were really challenges. What I eventually did is that those subject areas that posed the challenge, I went to extra lessons. And then, of course, with having the necessary structure and balance, I was able to, put that extra effort, while not neglecting those areas that I felt comfortable with, but at the end of the day, ensuring that I put in the work. And when the results came out, there was no subject area that did really better than any other because the grades were similar. And I think that in itself, once you know that there's a problem and you put in the resources, even if it is that you have to go the extra mile, I think you'll be able to balance that.
You have to be able to, frame of mind to learn from whatever
Rani, you talked about the brain being elastic and neuroplasticity, the concept that we can change our thoughts. You want to elaborate a bit more in that in relation to this question?
Well, I think it's, I'm trying to just to look at the words in terms of, why would I voluntarily train my brain to accept failure? In terms of, I have to understand that there are many outcomes. For when I embark on anything, there are different outcomes. So there's always the possibility that something will not happen and will turn out the way that I expected. I think we also have to appreciate the energy and what we put the focus around failure. And I think that's where the issue is, when we feel that someone who fails, that immediately they are no good. As opposed to looking at when I attempt to do something, that I have the courage to do this, and I must accept that it can either go one way, it can go many ways. There's a continuum. And looking at success and failure is really, that's the world of duality in which we live. It's either this or that, and in fact, reality is not that. There is a continuum of results in many ways. And I think that once we appreciate that good people fail, and I think that, and that starts again from how we treat the children. One of the things that, in terms of dealing with how we train our brain, I mean, there's a great book called The Conscious Parent. I'm sure we have a lot of young parents here. And they talk about how society continuously is asking people and expecting people to be above average. And this focus on being above average and what that is doing to our children and what that is doing to us as a society.
Thoughts? Training. From my perspective, and this is just to engage in the conversation, I believe that we can, change our thoughts. It has to be a conscious effort. There is a belief that if you want to change behavior, you need to do new things consistently, and some of the theorists think that there is a threshold period of about 21 days, that if you engage in a new behavior or thought pattern consistently for about 21 days, that seems to be its own break-even point. Beyond that, you're likely to get success in changing the behavior. So if you look at, if I use an example of exercise, many of the programs with exercise and diet normally tell you to maintain it for at least a 3-week period, consistently doing it over and over, even if it's yoga or prayer or mantra. Because in this way, the constant repetition and practice, you are actually sending new thought waves and patterns to your brain and getting new ideas, and that it starts to wheel changing. So with that, I personally believe that we can change our thought patterns, train ourselves to do new things and to think in different ways and try new behaviors. But it's a conscious effort. You have to consciously know where you are. Vision, as many of our panelists have talked about, where you want to be, and then what's the action you need to take consistently to get the result. So that's my take on it, so it's open for comments.
Let me just say that I really would like to get some details on the test of this 21 day, because I've read it, and in some cases I've read 30. I think they made some adjustments, maybe they realized 21 was brilliant. But if you look at my worksheet, where I have 2 lines going to inner superhero greatness, I would really like to say that's like a mountain without a top. And so that when you talk about changing your thought patterns, when you look at deep-seated beliefs, I believe that when you start to shift, that other things will start to, it's layers. It's like a rock that has been formed over many years. And as you shift one thought patterns, others will emerge. So this is not, and I'm not suggesting at all, any magic bullets. And that's why I said it's really a journey within. So the changing thought patterns, you talk about being consistent. You have to be consistent and disciplined to be in really wanting that greatness. But to know and to be sure that everything will just keep shifting and merging, and you will, it's grueling, it's at times painful, but it's so rewarding. So I would definitely, there's a disclaimer, 21 days.
All right, we hear you. Okay, great. Thanks for that, Rani. Any other questions? Yeah? Okay.
So this question is directed towards Rani. I actually attended a plot meeting and Rani was speaking and I observed her confidence back then and it seemed to grow back then. So I just want to ask you, I am curious as to what kind of woman were you in your early 20s? In terms of your academic, you don't have to give me love life. You don't have to give me love life. Give me academic and career. Why?
So my children complain all the time that I don't remember anything. So my daughter will say, Mom, remember when you used to do this and you used to do that? I look up and said, you don't remember anything. And I have to say that if I were to, I can't honestly recall exactly. I do know though that I always had a curiosity about myself. As I said that it says in my bio, that I always had a curiosity about self-actualization, about being the best that I can be. So that I always will be exploring and reading about what that is. And so that from then, I've looked at all different types of modalities. So I'm not only a lifelong learner in the academic realm, but in transformational education. And that is also one way that one can explore how to shift that vibrational frequency. Because transformational education goes within. And so I would actually recommend supporting the academic with the transformational type education. But I have to say that I was always very feisty. I always wanted to express myself. I'm also idealistic. My husband calls that being naive. And I've always gotten, you ask how do you know what you're not good at? I've gotten so much feedback. It has always been very clear what I'm not good at. And every time I got feedback, I would actually find a way to go and explore that. So at one time, well, for many, many years, people have always said they didn't like my tone of voice, how I spoke. Couldn't understand what were they talking about. Because I'd say the context. I don't want to repeat that. What are they hearing? And so I went and I did a program on voice training, I remember, because I wanted to understand what people were hearing. And the teacher said, what are you doing here? You speak perfectly. Why are you here? So then I decided to go to therapy. Because I said, I want to be a different person. I don't want to be that person. I wanted to understand what they were hearing and why couldn't I understand. I love therapy, by the way. Okay? Love it. And then I realized that I carried a lot of tension within me. I was told that I like to fix things. I'm a fixer. Somebody has a problem, I want to fix it. So that's the first vibration that I asked you to look at. You want to fix things, you're fixers. Carry that tension. And that was expressed in my voice. And as I started to understand and appreciate that, it took many years. And I started to realize I didn't have to fix things anymore. And the timbre of my voice also started to shift. So that I started now different modalities of meditation, being gratitude. That vibration, you can activate that vibration, and you can anchor these vibrations into your body. You can be more aware and be present to what you're feeling. And the more you're present to what you're feeling, then that is reflected on how you are in the world.
Thank you, Sharon, for a nice story there. Any questions? Because I have one I want to raise. Any other questions? Right, we have two here, one to the front and one to the back.
Good evening. It has been my experience that, well, Trinidad is a knowledge-based society. We are fast becoming a knowledge-based society. And there has been an emphasis on academic knowledge, which I agree is very, very important. But from what I've heard here, a lot of these skills that you all are speaking about are learned skills. These are not skills that you were born with. Do you support, or are you an advocate for having life skills programs in schools? Because I have a daughter who's 9 years old, and I am now in my 30s, and I am now learning about introspection. And I am now learning about all of these, amazing things. And it seems to me that we put this on a back burner. It's sort of like an afterthought, And we have a lot of very intelligent, academically intelligent people who can't deal with failure, who can't really integrate with people. And you have a lot of people who are very, very, very unhappy. And it seems to me that if you start learning these things very early on in life, that is something that would really serve you as a person, the country, and the world as a whole. What are your thoughts?
I agree wholeheartedly that from very young, from primary schools, that we should start children in silence, being able to, in terms of relationship and the management of conflict resolution. I was looking at a video, and they were talking about millennials, and one of the things they spoke about is lack of patience. And they spoke about unable to have relationships. They have relationships online. And being attached to technology, always being on the phone. So I totally agree wholeheartedly that the self has taken a back, that has been taken on the back burner. And we've forgotten about our own humanity and about our consciousness. That's why I love this MBA program. I love the fact that in the first module for consciousness, we brought our yoga mats. That was great. And the fact is business schools are recognizing that they've been teaching about leadership. But how has that really contributed to great leaders? Because I'm reading about it. Leadership is from the inside out. So that, yes, I think if we need to approach our education, more holistic approach. We used to talk about character. Character of the man. Character is about human being. About what's within. Now we talk about skills. The skill set. And then we lament the lack of character. So that I agree with Jenny about
Thank you, Rani. Jeremy, up here.
What I want to add to that is that the first life skill course that anyone should have an end home. Parents have responsibility to bring up excellence and just sit down. One thing to happen is investigate. Everything moves away. I'll think that in first choice, spend all of the thing on fixing them, after them. And nothing else gets. So again, family first, and start.
Definitely, I want to support the core, for that sort of life skills to be included as part of the curriculum in schools, because we continuously, produce, academic some reason that sort of missing element in terms of the basics, in terms of even simple things as having basic manners, is really missed. And I also support the fact that having it started even at the primary schools and of course the first place, at home is very important. Because parents need to understand, that at the end of the day, the current trends are changing. So even if it is that your children tell you that they perhaps want to be a carpenter or be a hairdresser, I mean, these are the careers now that are really making the money, and it's not just the academic types of courses and degrees. But at the end of the day, society is built up in such a way that it accommodates all different facets of skills and all elements therefore required. That life skill is very important. I've seen good trends even in some of our technical vocational programs being introduced that sort of life skill segment, as well as some of them call it career enhancement, which is doing a fantastic job in terms of allowing our individual to relate to each other and to understand why things are happening the way it is.
So what I'm hearing is that in terms of development, we're really looking to have systems that focus on the development of the whole person, not just the IQ intelligence quotient, but also the emotional side. And it probably needs to start from the home, certainly developed through the primary school system, secondary, tertiary, post-tertiary. I'll just add a plug here at the post-tertiary level. What we have started to introduce into some of our programming as part of the learning for the students is journaling, requiring persons to do the introspection and keep a journal entry, and that's part of the coursework. There was a time when that would not have had a place in a post-tertiary program because it wasn't academic in the traditional sense. But we're realizing that, as Rani says, if leadership starts with you and who you are and knowing yourself and your strengths and your weaknesses, and therefore being able to do the introspection and to keep a journal, to record your thoughts, and to go into that quiet place. Rani talked about meditation, and to look at yourself and see where you are has proven to be very powerful in terms of adult learning and developing the whole person. So I think, thanks for that question. Great. We have someone to the back, right? Great.
Good evening, everyone. I am intrigued by the discussions so far. I think the previous discussion just now kind of answered my question in terms of just to add it. Basically, I know that we normally promote the thinking, changing a mindset, etc. However, I think that the environment that we live in also challenges you in terms of changing a mindset. For instance, if we have a student from the BCom, their experience will be different from those, let's say, in Westmoreland, for instance, because or San Fernando, or somewhere where the environment propels them to study, or that they are in an environment where they are safe and they are not threatened by other external stimuli, so that they'll be more influenced or happier and more comfortable to study. So I think, and then the whole image of greatness is skewed as well. That's what we were discussing just now in terms of what or who is a great person, what is established as great. So I think that's what society also kind of changes the mentality or changes the idea or what is real greatness. Everybody has a different view. So in terms of what is greatness, I think the environment also has a big role to play as well. I don't know what are your thoughts on that.
What is greatness? We have two things. What actually we define as greatness and the role of the environment and how the environment in terms of physical environment and social environment, how that shapes the thoughts, views, beliefs of the individual.
Historically, the environment in itself definitely suggests that an individual basically society and in terms of how they perceive themselves. It also impacts on the individual self-esteem. And we have given some very good examples in terms of how we as individuals perceive other persons depending on the geographic space in which they operate or they live in this country. It also goes back, even, linking it back to the whole academia, even from private school, where we have SEA, and of course, if the child did not pass for certain school, the parent was stuck on the child, who they cry, and all of that. So that sort of stigmatization, that the child didn't do well, and so forth, also contributes to that sort of stigma. And it affects them emotionally in terms of moving forward. You also have situations where you have children doing really well at the private school level, but because the focus was just the SEA lessons and so on, and not having that sort of experience in terms of other life-related issues, by the time they get to secondary school, they are unable to perform. Parents also still have the notion that they cannot balance sports and academia, and we are seeing where that has been proven wrong. And again, the society, but what has to happen in order for the whole mindset to really change and to ensure that persons maximize their full potential? Because I'm sure in every community there is someone, despite the challenges, the circumstances, would have made it. And what we need to do is to highlight these persons and boost them, to sort of share with those persons who might have these challenges in terms of how they were able to make it. And that can be a very essential tool that you can use to really get them in tune, in terms of, yes, things might be challenging, but you too can also be there because this person did.
As you're speaking there on your last point about getting persons in our society to share, the word mentor just came to my mind. And I am thinking that maybe that's an activity as a society we probably need to put more resources into, to have in our communities more mentors at all levels to work with persons, to help them make the transition, to help them adopt new perspectives, build new relationships, have different visions of what's possible. Because sometimes it may be that because of your circumstances, your vision is narrow, and that you cannot perceive a bigger future for oneself. And if you were to be exposed to a mentor, they can open possibilities for persons at all levels in the society and at any age who can help you envision your future and then how do you, what action and steps you need to get there.
We want to make the good that make it for everyone.
If it is that we move away from preparing children to sit an exam and focus on each child as an individual and exploring their potential, then regardless of where they come from, that would be a shared vision that we have for every child. That they are capable and they have an appreciation of their potential. But if it is that we're just churning out people with qualifications starting from SE, then we lose that opportunity.
So when we talk to our counselors and other persons who are the decision makers, we can change the conversation about education, the value of education, and what should be happening in our childhood centers, primary school, secondary schools, and universities. That's a conversation that we need to have in a different way. All right, I saw somebody else have their hand up right to the back, and then there's a lady here to the red. Look at if you want to say something. Somebody in the front? Okay, so two more, I think, yeah?
What do you recommend for someone who is emotionally scarred to achieve greatness?
How do you help?
Yeah, how do you help, or what would you recommend for a person who is emotionally scarred to achieve greatness?
So the first thing is that the person know that they know that we kind of after man. So if they are, we talk about being careful about who is faithful and who is fair your life in commitment.
Okay.
There are people who will take advantage of that. There are people who will make it work. And there are people who will help make it better. And the first thing is we are aware of that things will come through.
The extent to which, emotionally scarred but there's a whole breadth of ways that someone is emotionally scarred and the extent to which that is stunting someone from moving forward. So it depends then on that. Professional help, a mentor, and if it is some introspection. So I would like to say that it depends to the extent, because that person could be traumatized from early childhood or certain incidents in their life that would require professional assistance to walk them through it. Because a lot of the times we carry around what I call unprocessed emotions, and we carry them around, and it's all about bringing the past into the present. Because they're unprocessed and we get triggered by a lot of things, and a lot of things that trigger us are usually issues that we haven't processed and we haven't left behind. So I would just advise that it depends to the extent in which that person is scarred and the source.
We have a question.
Yes, good evening. I think my question is similar to young lady, but it's directed to Mr. Francis, of course, anyone on the panel can answer as well. But earlier in the discussion, you spoke of when you were ready to start your business, you didn't receive much positive advice from your co-workers, and you also spoke about choosing your friends and picking your right circle. But to me, those are persons outside of what you would call in a whole. What happens when persons who hold near to you or inside your boat is not giving you that not so positive advice? For example, let's say it's it was your wife, God forbid, who's having a third child is telling you, I don't think it's the right time in 09 to start your business. What happens there? Because to me it's easy to battle the storm when it's outside the boat, but it can become difficult when that water gets inside the boat. How do you position yourself for greatness now that the people who hold in your circle is now discouraging you from that, for example, achieving your business in 09?
First thing, nothing was going to happen if white men say, okay.